Welcome at the George Enescu International Competition. We are very glad to have you here, and I'm also very glad that the level is very high.
Extremely high. I'm
Yes.
honored to be here because when you witness such young talent, it's always a joy for us older musicians. Yeah.
Yes, and it's very interesting because during the pandemic times, of course, there were no festivals, no competitions, but George Enescu International Competition just took place online in an online version.
Yes.
And in the 2020-21, they were here at Romanian Atheneum. But at that point, you could see that the musical level was not like nowadays, these times. I don't know what happened from then until now. In 2022, that was a very good edition of the Enescu competition. But now, all the members of the jury from the cello section, violin section, and the piano section told me the same thing, that the level is very, very high. What do you think that happened? What do you think that happened? What changed?
No, it could be that there's a general increase in positivity in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps people felt more able to make music,
Yes.
to do something they love. No, the level is very high. I think the younger generation is very serious, very dedicated, and extremely talented.
Yes.
And there's a lot of travel. I mean, you have the Asians who are studying in America or in Europe. So there's a lot of interchange, a lot of cultural
Yes.
interchange, and I
Yeah.
think this, of course, increases the likelihood of talent emerging and
Yeah.
being presented to the music public.
Yes. Yeah, you put it very well, this cultural mixture, because Asians coming to USA, maybe Europeans going to USA, and vice versa.
Well, that's, of course, always been, yes.
Yes, yes, but it's a very good point of view, because this mixing is a very positive one, because the culture from Asian, for example, for a Japanese musician that brings his culture to United States and mixes with their culture, somehow is getting better in his career, because he enriches his knowledges. And that thing is very important in a musical career,
yes,
and
absolutely.
in everyone's career,
Yeah.
regarding arts or literature or something like this.
And we find a lot of common ground
Yes.
in our cultures if we are prepared to look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, we're all human beings. We all love life. We all want to progress and develop,
Yes.
and we can find this commonality
Yes.
between all cultures. But as I say, we have to look.
We have to look, yes.
We have to
and
be
search.
active.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, and be curious and embrace this. Yeah. These series of interviews, I started them 2 years ago in the partnership with the George Enescu International Competition. And my main goal with these interviews is directed to the younger generation, music generation, of course, because I want them to learn something from you in these interviews, because you have a lot of things to say about your musical path, about your musical career. And I want to concentrate on the points in your career when maybe you didn't have so very good days playing on the stage, and how did you do it, and how did you pass through all these tough moments perhaps, or how did you fight with your fears on stage? Maybe you have them or maybe you didn't have, because the younger generation usually perhaps they are afraid of going to a competition, or they are not very sure of their own possibilities and their own aptitudes and talents. And how do we encourage them?
That's a very, very complicated question, and
Yes.
the answer is also very complex, because probably boils down to the fact that we are trying to please others, and so we often feel that we are obliged to do something that we hope will please the public, the concert agency, the different managers, the competition juries, your professor, your parents. And it's very, very hard to find out what you sincerely believe within yourself. Because we are inundated with external requests and requirements.
Yes.
So for me, I would say to all musicians, young and old, but of course the younger generation still has time to develop, is to be sincere to yourself. One of the reasons I would have moments of insecurity or fear was because I was worried about whether I would please the next person.
Yeah.
That could be my parents, my father, of course, being who he is,
Yes.
who he was. That was a very challenging factor in my musical development
Yes.
because I had this example of
Yes.
greatness in front of me. But it was the same with pleasing my teachers, pleasing audiences. It was always an external pressure, which I think would often stand in the way of my expressing my own ideas. So I would say to the younger generation, be sincere to your own scale of values and do your best. Make music, love music.
Yes.
If you focus only on career, you're going to make compromises, you're going to sacrifice your own truth.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult path to follow.
Yes.
I would always say go for the art in itself for its own sake, and be honest about it, be sincere. And if a career is created from that, then at least you know it's an honest one.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. But somehow, yes, we must think this way, but there is a trap. You always think about the public.
Of course.
And of course, pleasing the public.
Yes.
But how do you deal with this? You said, yeah, be sincere in what you do and just go on stage and play with your whole heart, and that will be enough. But we always think of pleasing people we are in front of.
We always do,
Yes.
but there's an element also of transmitting something to the public. I wouldn't call it educating the public, but you're certainly increasing their knowledge or appreciation if you do it in the right way.
Yeah.
For example, during the feedback sessions, one of my main points that I expressed to the candidates was make your music understandable to the public, because the public is not always educated
Yeah.
to the extent that we pianists, we musicians are. So while we may understand more or less what is being performed, the public may not. The public may simply see that it's very skillful performance of complicated notes and sequences and things, but that's not enough. One has to make the art understandable,
Yes.
and then you will please the public. If the public understands what you're doing,
Yeah, he will be pleased.
the
Yes.
same in theatre.
Yeah.
If you speak clearly with meaning and with purpose,
Yes.
the audience will understand you.
Yeah.
I have an experience which I think relates very, very strongly to this, is that my mother decided when I was 12 to take me to see a Shakespeare play. Before we went to Stratford-upon-Avon, where the Royal Shakespeare Theatre was located at that time when I was a child, she gave me the script of the
Yes.
play, and I couldn't understand a word. I tried to read it and I got lost. But when I actually was in the audience and watching the play, I felt I understood everything, because the performance was
Yes.
in such a way that even I, as a 12-year-old, could understand what was being said and what was
Yes.
happening. But I couldn't understand the words in the book.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. You make it understandable by the way you present, by the way you transmit.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the most important element.
Yeah.
it pleases, but it also increases one's understanding. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. These feedback sessions are very important for competitors. It's the first time when George Enescu International Competition does this with the
really?
competitors, with each one.
Yes.
And it's very, very important for them
Yes.
because it's somehow a validation. Because most of them didn't pass through all these stages.
Yeah.
There are going to be 6 semi-finalists and
Yeah.
only 3 finalists. And usually, as a musician, a young musician, you go to a competition hoping for the winner. And
Of course, of course.
that doesn't happen anytime. And so these feedback sessions are amazing for them.
Oh yes, I mean,
It's
I was
very
saying that
important.
the level is very high,
Yes.
and even the person who hasn't passed, I would say, well, but you're still very good. You still played very well.
Yeah.
But you know, we have to make choices. That's
Yes.
inevitable in a competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
they must understand that not passing through these stages is not. It doesn't mean that they failed.
no,
It's a very important lesson. It's a very important. In a competition, you see the other competitors. You can compare, of course, them to you, and vice versa. And in the meantime, you never know who is going to be in the hall or in the jury
no.
to see you and like you. Yeah.
I had one candidate say to me, when I heard the other pianists, I thought to myself, I don't have a chance. I said, but I
Yes.
said, you're also very good.
Yeah.
You know, I said, I put in my notes that you're very good,
Great. Yes.
but
yeah.
I'm only one out of X many jury members. I mean, in this
Yeah.
case, it's 7 jury members. There are some competitions where you have 9 or 12.
Yeah.
So your voice is only one out of
Exactly.
a larger group.
Yeah.
So you may like somebody and the
Of
others may
course,
not. So
of course. It's very subjective,
difficult.
yes.
It's very subjective.
Yes. Of course. Yeah. And what would you say to the young generation that comes to a competition, perhaps for the first time, and they don't get to semifinals, and I don't know, they get depressed, for example?
It's, well, which attitude should you have when you go into these competitions? And there are so many different attitudes from different pianists. There are some who expect to win, and then if they don't get through, are offended, and they leave it. They don't even come to feedback, for example. Then you have others who perhaps felt they didn't do their best, and maybe want that to be validated in the feedback, that, well, because this wasn't enough is why you didn't pass.
Yeah.
But I say you have so many different attitudes. I think, again, I always say, go in just doing your best. As I say, be sincere, do your best. If your best isn't good enough, then you perhaps have more to learn, you have more to develop. But no, I mean, we're talking about something eternal, something that is, you know, music is eternal, art is eternal.
Yes.
And in a way, we're all privileged to be part of this this milieu of making music. But of course, we also have the practical side
Yeah.
of life here on earth, and we have to make it in some way. So it's very hard to juggle between the practical and the eternal. But as I say, I think they should go into competitions simply knowing they're well prepared and hoping to do their best. And one can't really say any more, because in the end, there are going to be results, there are going to be winners, and there are going to be non-winners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Always.
Of course. Yeah. Did you had tough moments in your career?
Well, I've had moments where I played very badly, and I've had moments where I played very well. So yes, tough moments.
Yeah. And how did you react towards them?
Work harder.
Yeah.
No, really, work harder.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'm very self-critical anyway, so I would always see it as a case of having to do better, having to work harder, having to, let's say, become more reliable or more expressive. Yeah. Really, work
Yeah,
harder,
yeah.
work harder.
This is the key, yes.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nowadays, with all these online and Facebook and Instagram, are a lot of people that just write their opinion. And my question is, how do you deal with bad criticism nowadays?
You don't read it.
You don't.
You don't
Okay.
read it.
Yeah, you don't read
Simply
it. Yes.
don't read it. It's like television. If you don't like a program, don't watch it.
Yeah.
If you don't like the ambiance of a social media outlet where people are going to send in comments, I would say, well, then don't give any importance to it, because there are too many opinions and
Yes.
there are too many unreasoned opinions. And so if you start taking those seriously, then you get into serious trouble psychologically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, you have to have your filters. You have to know what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah. But
You can't let that define what's
of
right
course,
and wrong. Yeah.
but for the younger generation, the tendency is to look up
I know,
for the
I know,
Facebook, for
yeah,
Instagram, to
yeah.
be validated from the people there,
Yes.
because they grew up with all this technology, and it's very hard for them to know what's good or is right for them. And this advice is very good. Don't read it or just don't take it into account, because that's is not what is defining you as an artist.
Yeah.
But I see many young people very depressed when they are reading bad things,
Yes.
and the result is not very good all the time. Depressed people, suiciding young generation.
Yeah.
It's this technology
Yes.
is somehow a bad thing also.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I think it's very important that the parents are there and try to coordinate them through